Hi guys, it's Ben Heath from Lead Guru, and in this video, I'm going to talk about what your starting Facebook ad budget should be. What's a good starting Facebook ad budget? It's a question I get all the time. I'm going to show you exactly how to calculate it, what you should be thinking about when it comes to budget, all that sort of stuff. Now, before I get into that, quickly mention at the end of this video, I'm going to be talking about something to do with Facebook advertising strategy, a free resource that I think you're going to be really interested in. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video for that. But with that said, let's get into it. So you can probably see that I have a blank Excel document up in front of me, and I'm going to use that to make a few calculations. For those of you that aren't very mathematical, don't worry, it's not going to be complicated, but I think it'll help you understand how I think about budgets. Now, I speak to tons of people about Facebook advertising all the time, and I will often ask them, what is their budget? How much money have you got to work with? And they will come back to me and say, well, what should you spend on a Facebook ad campaign? And they say that almost expecting there to be a right answer, as in everyone who advertises on Facebook should spend this much. Well, I can guarantee that when Toyota run a Facebook ad campaign, they're going to spend a lot more than, someone who just started a business and is operating that out of their spare room, for example. Okay, so what your budget is really depends on your business, your products and services, your acceptable cost of customer acquisition, what your objectives are. I'm going to show you how to sort of basically work that out going through. Okay, I'm also going to make some recommendations in terms of a minimum starting point, because I think that's something people are interested in as well. So you may not have thought about a lot of these numbers, but as we go through this, it's important that you do so, because it's important to help work things out. The first thing you need to work out is what you can afford to pay to acquire a customer. Okay, so let's say, for example, in fact, let's go ahead and write this in here, because I think they'll be useful for you. So let's say my average customer value, so this is how much a customer pays me on average, okay, is, let's go with $2,500. Let's just assume all these numbers are dollars, okay? My average customer value is $2,500. It will depend on what they're buying. Are they buying a product? Are they buying a service? If they're buying a service, what does it cost you to deliver that service? They're buying a product, what's your cost of goods, etc., etc. But then think about, what are you really willing to pay to acquire a customer? Now, some people will say things like, I'm willing to pay 10%. So let's say, let's call this acceptable customer acquisition cost. Okay? Let's, I'll just drag that out. I can't find the little wrap thing. Never mind. So let's say your acceptable customer acquisition, so they'll say it's 10%. So I'm willing to pay $250 to acquire a customer. To which I usually, particularly if it's a service-based business, I'll usually go back to them and say, really? Are you really only willing to pay $250 to acquire a customer that's worth $2,500? Let's say, for example, I had a magic machine where you put $500 in and you got out $2,500 customers from it. Would you keep putting money in that machine? And most people say, oh yes, actually, I can afford to pay more to acquire a customer. And you go, yes, exactly. I thought so. So often businesses that I speak to, if they're service-based, they might be willing to pay up to, let's say, 30% of the value of the customer. If they're product-based, sometimes it's a lot less because, of course, they have cost of goods, etc., etc. But let's assume, for argument's sake, this company is willing to pay $500 to acquire a new customer that's worth $2,500. That gives them enough revenue in order to pay their staff who are going to be implementing the service. It leaves them with some profit on top, etc., etc. Okay, so that's your acceptable customer acquisition cost. Now, if these numbers seem massive, that's absolutely fine. You could have an e-commerce example where, let's say, your average customer value is $40. And let's say you operate with a 50% margin and you want to double your money on your Facebook ad campaigns. So the product costs you $20 to ship in from China or wherever. You sell it for $40. So therefore you want to acquire new customers for $10 each. Those could be your numbers. We've run campaigns with those sorts of numbers where the target cost of customer acquired is $10. Okay? So don't worry if this example looks crazy. This sort of e-commerce option can absolutely work as well. In fact, why don't I just leave that up there? Let's do service, and let's do e-commerce. So it's nice and clear and obvious. Let's assume these are our numbers. Now, if $500 is your acceptable customer acquisition cost, that's what you're willing to pay to acquire a customer, you then need to calculate how much you're willing to pay for a lead. And to know that, you need to know your conversion rate. So let's say, for example, you convert at 20%. Okay, so let's say your lead to customer conversion rate is 20%. So you need 5 leads to get a customer. That means that you're willing to pay per lead. So acceptable cost per lead equals $100. And let's, you know what, I wasn't going to, but let's pop in the dollars because I think it will make it easier for you guys to follow as we go through and add numbers in. No. Keep it all in dollars. That means your acceptable cost per lead is $100. Now, you should take note here that I'm writing acceptable. That is the maximum you're willing to pay. That's not your target. Of course, you may want to generate leads for, $20, $10, $2. We all want that to be as low as possible, but it's important to know what your acceptable is, because if you know what this is, if you think, I only want to pay $20 per lead and leads cost you $60 from Facebook, you may think, I've got to stop running the campaign. When in fact, actually, if you run through these numbers, you might work out that your acceptable cost per lead is $100, and you can actually afford to pay a lot more than you thought. You can afford to spend more on Facebook advertising, grow your business, etc. You need to understand these numbers. So the way you calculate this, super simple, by the way, is just your acceptable customer acquisition cost times the percentage gives you 100. Make sense? If that was $100, then this would be $20. Okay, because there's 1/5 of that. If that number there is $300, then this one's going to be $60. Okay, so that's a really important thing to work out your acceptable cost per lead. Now you need to work out, obviously these don't apply for the e-commerce option here, and I'll just write not applicable in there. Now you need to work out how many customers you want a campaign to generate a month to be worth running. That's a really important point in the end, to be worth running. This video that I'm recording right now is all about calculating what your starting Facebook ad budget should be, what you should start spending when you first run a Facebook ad campaign. Not what you want to scale to. Of course, I could say, how many customers do you want? You say, I want 1 million customers, I want 1,000 customers. No, how many customers does this need to generate for it to be worth it? Now, for some businesses that, let's say a customer is worth $2,500, perhaps for a Facebook ad campaign to be worth the effort, worth the time, they need to generate 1 customer a month, okay? So if their minimum target customers is 1, I don't want dollars, I knew I was going to do that, keep me a number, is 1, they want 1 new customer a month, that's the minimum. Therefore, their starting budget should be what's ever required in ad spend in order to generate 1 customer. So, starting budget of $500. In fact, I'll pop those as currency. Sorry, this is a bit confusing, a bit bitty. Right, okay. Let's format this up a little bit, keep it all nice and easy. Now, we know that we're off 1 customer in this scenario. We know that we're willing to pay up to $100 per lead. We need to generate 5 leads to generate a customer. Therefore, our starting budget should be $500. Now, if things go to plan, your cost per lead may be $50. Your conversion rate might be better, might be worse. The numbers won't exactly come out like this. You may get 2 customers for that $500, for example, okay? But I would say always set that number at the minimum it needs to be worth it, because part of this is a psychological point. If you're running a Facebook ad campaign on such a small budget that even if it works, it doesn't do anything for your business, there's just no point. You're not going to be invested. You're not going to take the time to create really good ads. You're not going to do the targeting research, the things that are required to get great results. If you've got a bigger business, and let's say that needs to be 5, we need 5 new customers a month to even make it worth it. We generate 50 new customers a month. If we're not going to generate another 5 through another marketing platform like Facebook and Instagram advertising, I'm not even bothered. Well, then your number comes out at 5 times that, $2,500 is what you need to spend to acquire your 5 customers. That would still be very profitable. You spent $2,500, you generate 5 times $2,500, which is $12,500. You 5x ROAS your money. Good news, happy days. Let's take a look at the e-commerce example. Let's say you started a new e-commerce business, you're running Facebook ad campaigns, and you're going, look, we're willing to pay $10 per purchase, $10 to acquire a new customer. Our average customers are worth $40 to us. But how many new customers do we need to make Facebook advertising worth it, to even bother? Let's say you've got an absolute minimum of 20. You need 20 customers to even make Facebook advertising worth it, okay? To even bother. That might be less if you're just getting started, maybe 10, maybe the idea of an extra $400 a month is exciting, completely up to you. But let's just say it's 20. Therefore, if you need 20 new customers and you're going to be paying you're willing to pay up to $10 per new customer, then your starting ad budget should be $200. Okay? Very, very simple calculation, very easy to make. Hopefully that makes sense. You need to know how much your customers are worth on an average basis. If you're just getting started, you don't know information, just guess. Use your best guess. Then you need to work out how much you're willing to pay to acquire a new customer. Again, that might not be tricky, but really have a good think about that. So in this example, let's say I'm selling the product for $40. It costs me $20 per unit to get it manufactured. I'm willing to spend 50% of that margin as a maximum, in order to generate a sale. So I'd be making $10 profit per sale. I want to make $200. I want to make 20 sales in a month to make it worth it. That would give me $800 in revenue, $200 in net profit. Fine, let's go ahead and do that. Okay, and that's how you come out with these starting budgets. It depends on this number and obviously the numbers previously. Now, obviously, as you scale, these numbers might change, and bigger businesses, these numbers are going to change. So we have companies that we run Facebook ad campaigns for. They're spending more than $100,000 a month. You know, for a campaign to be worth it, they're making calculations on, look, we need to acquire 2,000 new customers this month, or whatever it happens to be. Others, when you're just getting started, you might just want to start with $200 in a month, and that's absolutely fine. One thing I will say about a minimum budget to get started with is I wouldn't recommend spending anything less than $100 a month. I just don't feel there are basically any scenarios in which $100 a month or less is going to generate enough leads, enough sales for it to be worth the time. To make Facebook advertising work, you need to create highly engaging creative. You need to do the targeting research. You need to set up all the stuff. It's just, okay, even with $100, if you 6x your money, 10x your money, and make $1,000 a month revenue, is the profit on that really going to be worth it? Maybe it will be for your scenario, but maybe not. So that's why I would say don't start with anything less than $100 a month. I think if you don't have that to spend, you're better off operating with using some other digital marketing platforms. Try a YouTube channel, SEO, things that you can invest time into and not necessarily money, as opposed to running on a Facebook ad campaign that's going to require immediate upfront money in order to get it going and get started. The other thing I'll say on when it comes to Facebook advertising budgets and what you should start spending is make sure it's something that you can afford. What I would recommend to people is plan as if the first 2 to 3 months of Facebook ad spend are going to be lost. Now, if you do things properly, if you use the videos that I've created to create your Facebook ad campaigns, you go through my trainings and things like that, then it's highly unlikely. We never launch a campaign where the first few months of money is lost, but it's not impossible that first few months won't be profitable for you. You may be loss making during this first few months, and you need to be prepared for that. It may be because you just haven't got your ads quite right, you haven't got your targeting quite right, you haven't worked out your sales funnel yet. You may need to run a campaign, go, okay, I need to adjust this now. So don't use your rent money is basically what I'm saying when you run that campaign in the early stages. Run a campaign, make sure it's money that you can afford to lose. It's very unlikely you won't see any return, but it might not be profitable initially, and make sure you can keep going. If you've got $3,000 to spend on Facebook ads, don't start month one with $3,000. Start with perhaps $500 a month. That'll give you 6 months worth to work it out and be able to optimize your sales funnel so you can start generating revenue that you can then invest back into your Facebook advertising. Okay, Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that video has been useful. If it has, pop a comment below to let me know. Obviously, if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments. At the beginning of this video, I talked about something to do with Facebook advertising strategy that I think you're going to find really useful. I'm going to quickly tell you about it now. So I've created a webinar, free webinar, a link will be in the video description below, that is called 3 Killer Facebook Advertising Strategies to Double or More Your Revenue. And that's what the webinar is all about. It's all about Facebook advertising strategy. It's all about sales funnels, which sales funnels you should use depending on what type of business you have. It's incredibly important. If you're not getting fantastic results from your Facebook ads, there's a really, really good chance it's because you're not using the right strategy. Strategy is the most important thing. If you're using the wrong strategy, your campaigns will fail. So I would strongly, strongly recommend that if you're watching this video, if you're interested in Facebook advertising, that you check out that webinar. It's about 60, 70 minutes long. There'll be a link, as I said, in the video description, completely free. Go ahead and click on that, register, watch it, go through it. Probably be the best thing, one of the most important things you've consumed. I know that might sound ridiculous, but it really isn't. That's not hyperbole. We've had thousands of people watch it already, and the feedback so far has been fantastic. So I strongly recommend you go through that. Another thing I want to quickly mention is my free Facebook ads mastermind group. I've got a private Facebook group that's got 26,000 members, all Facebook advertisers, all wanting to get better results from Facebook ads, answering questions and helping each other out. Fantastic community. So if you've got Facebook ad questions where you're thinking, what do I do here? What do I do there? Go ahead and join my Facebook group. Link is in the video description. Click through, ask to join. I'll approve the request. We do love to have you in there. And as I said, fantastic community, all sorts of people willing to answer questions like myself, other Facebook advertising experts. I think you'll find it really, really valuable. Okay, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, turn on the little notifications so you get notified every time I release a new Facebook advertising related video, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.